Black people are leaving the Democrat Party in droves and becoming MAGA, all thanks to Donald Trump. Our president has effectively eradicated the Democrat Party by taking their most historically loyal base, Black voters, all due to his common sense, tough on crime stance that elitist white liberals like to call unnecessary and authoritarian. But Black people whose neighborhoods are the epicenter to this crime epidemic are applauding Donald Trump. The Black residents of Washington, D.C. are speaking out and showering Donald Trump with praise and thanks, shattering the left-wing narrative that crime in D.C. is under control, and this was an unnecessary fascist takeover. And that's why I'm wearing my 47 hat today. So make sure you guys smash the like button, stick to the end of this video. I have a lot to show you, and I know you're gonna love to see this. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start by hearing from this Black lady have to explain to these pretentious virtue signaling liberals that Trump's tough on crime stance is what the residents of DC want.
Do you not understand that this is what the residents want? I'm not talking about the bougie upper echelons, bougie Blacks. I'm talking about the everyday grandmas that have to deal with these homeless people peeing and pooping on their steps, and then they have to clean it up. They don't feel safe when they walk into their neighborhood. The gangs and the dope boys are just standing around the corner, you know, like, do you not understand this is what they want? I remember working with a community leader and somebody had just gotten shot. This is like 5 years ago. And I remember her praying and she said, Crystal, we're gonna have to invoke the National Guard. And that was so foreign to me. Now I understand the shit. These people are helpless. And I'm not talking about the bougie Black people that live in their gated communities with their new bills. I'm talking about the everyday grandmothers. And I'm so glad that President Trump cares about them.
And that's why this latest anti-Trump knee-jerk reaction from the Democrat Party is going to be the fatal blow. We've seen the Democrat Party over the years lose all common sense and pick the 20 side of every 80-20 issue. But now they've signed their own death warrant by taking the 0 side of a 100-0 issue, which is fighting crime and making our communities safer. And this is the final straw for the Black community, who is finally starting to wake up and realize that the Democrats have been screwing them and taking advantage of them since 1965. It was the Democrats' plan to remove Black fathers from the home and make Black people a perpetual government dependent. They destabilized the Black community and then leveraged Black plight to engage in their academic, upper class, progressive ideology culture war. Democrats' victimhood ideology led them to supporting the criminals at the expense of the law-abiding citizens, further perpetuating the crime problem in these underserved communities that they claim to care about. Here is a lady speaking to Fox News explaining that the crime problem in DC is very real, and anybody who says it isn't is a liar.
Now for Tempe Satcher, another DC resident, her son BJ was gunned down in a random drive-by shooting on the way to work 2 years ago, and she does not feel that crime has calmed down.
Just today, a young lady was shot over on 15th Street in Northeast DC. Does that seem like crime gone down? With all the things that are going on with our president, you know, sending the National Guards out, I don't have a problem with that personally, because if MPD can't do it and they need help, then I'm glad they're able to get the help.
Democrats should have learned from the whole defund the police debacle that it is always unpopular to be against fighting crime. But they are so deeply entrenched with having to take the opposite side of anything Donald Trump does, they are now losing Black voters who are greatly welcoming this help. Common sense lacking, overly educated, upper class Democrats learned in a sociology class in college that everything in America is systemically racist, and the police force is one of the main extensions of that racism, of that oppression. Therefore, they've concluded from their ivory towers, without talking to a single Black person, that the solution for these oppressed people is to completely remove policing from their neighborhoods entirely. That'll make them feel more safe. Democrats are so Trump deranged that they're willing to ignore the very serious life or death concerns of their residents to engage in this petty and losing, for that matter, ideological battle against Donald Trump. When you call someone Hitler, you can't agree with him on anything, even if it means stopping murders and carjackings. And this issue is so unpopular for the already historically unpopular Democrat Party that Joe Scarborough from Morning Joe obliterates the Democrat Party for being so stupid and opposing Trump on this very common sense issue.
Let's look at the numbers there. There's a Washington Post poll that was published just a couple of months ago. 91% of Washington, D.C. residents said that crime was a serious problem, with half of D.C. Residents saying it was an extremely serious problem. So that's 9 out of 10 voters telling you crime is a problem. Don't tell them it's not a problem. In this Washington Post poll, where 9 out of 10 people in Washington, D.C. say crime is a big problem, the Washington Post explains that the opinion on crime is sharply divided along racial and economic lines. And guess what? Black voters and poor to working class voters are the ones who see crime as a more serious problem.
Right.
White voters and affluent people who live in Washington, D.C. do not see crime as as serious of a problem.
So not only are the stats against the Democrats on this one, but general public sentiment and feeling is also against them. You would think the one thing the Democrats learned from their abysmal failure in 2024 was when the voters tell you they have a concern and this is how they feel, you shouldn't tell them their concerns are wrong and baseless. The Democrats can't find a footing because they refuse to listen to what the voters are concerned about. Donald Trump listens to the voters, does what they ask him to do. The Democrats instinctively pick the opposite side of whatever Donald Trump does. And now, surprise, surprise, they have a historically low approval rating. But let me show you this clip of a law enforcement raid in the hood in Washington, D.C. that a liberal account on X tried to post as proof that Donald Trump is just targeting black people. And then we're going to talk about it.
He has nothing. What y'all want? What y'all want? Yeah, get me on camera, boy. I'm legal. Nigga, fuck is you talking about? I got me on camera, boy. What? Shut your bitch.
He put this man in handcuffs with no reason. Hey, don't push him, y'all. Don't push them. He had no reason to put this man in handcuffs.
So number one, liberals will be mad no matter what. If the cops were patrolling upper class neighborhoods, they would complain that they're only showing priority to rich white people, not the actual working class black citizens of Washington, D.C. And now that they're showing priority to the black neighborhoods where most of the crime is occurring, again, harming the law-abiding black citizens, they want to cry racism because they only look at the world through a hyper-racialized lens. But here's the truth. What you don't see on this video is all the old ladies, all the mothers, all the children who actually want to do well in life, breathing a sigh of relief that these criminals, that these thugs are being taken out of their neighborhood. These law-abiding residents have to suffer because local businesses, Walmarts, CVS's, grocery stores, all leave these neighborhoods, not because they don't want to serve black people and happily take their money, but because crime is such a problem that it's impossible for them to operate. They're not going to keep a store open just so merchandise can consistently be stolen. And then district attorneys won't prosecute any of these crimes. In fact, they soften the laws and completely disincentivize criminals from being afraid to break the law, all at the expense of people who just want to live decent law-abiding lives. But alas, there was a protest in the streets of Washington, D.C., showing their dissatisfaction to Donald Trump's authoritarian takeover of their city. And you tell me if you can spot a single black person in this entire crowd. That crowd is nothing but white people. People who likely live in neighborhoods where crime isn't as significant as other parts of the city. But their arrogant, sanctimonious attitude forces them to speak on behalf of everybody, impose their delusional worldview on the rest, simultaneously saying they're standing up for these oppressed minorities who this will negatively impact, but condemning, scolding, or just flat out ignoring those very people who say that this is what they want. This will improve their lives. These people have just made their entire identity the only thing they care about, resisting Donald Trump. And that's why black people are finally fed up with these Democrats. Here's an ex-Democrat White House staff, a black lady, explaining how dumb of a move this is for Democrats.
Well, I think we have to be willing to say the quiet part out loud. And I think as Democrats, it's facing uncomfortable conversations about crime. Look, no one wants to put kids in jail or lock them away for life, but when we ignore a problem, we allow it to fester, and we don't target what the founding issue of the problem is. And I believe for DC, a lot of that has to do with our youth and with education. I mean, DC for 2022 to 2023 had about 40% of kids that faced chronic absentee. So that means they missed 10% or more of the school year. Well, where are those kids when they're not in school? They're outside causing a little bit of chaos. They're raiding grocery stores, drug stores. They're putting entire sections of the city under curfew. And the fact of the matter is the president is addressing something that is very real. We can live in this city and say it's a beautiful city, and we can also say that we have a chronic issue when it comes to our youth.
And that's why Donald Trump is a man of the people. And now even black voters are realizing it. All the Democrat fear-mongering and hyperbole is falling on deaf ears because black people can see with their own eyes. The Democrats are doing absolutely nothing for them. In fact, almost everything the Democrat Party does is against the interests of black people. The Democrats give priority to trans people, to gay people, to illegal immigrants. While Donald Trump is saying, I hear you, crime is a problem in your neighborhoods, I'm here to help. And the Democrats knew that at a certain point, their grift towards the entire black community was going to be exposed, and black people were going to be fed up and stop voting for them. That's why they had to mass import tens of millions of illegal immigrants that they could put on the taxpayer dole and would eventually become consistent Democrat voters. That's why their attention is so heavily focused on Donald Trump not deporting people. They knew eventually one day they'd lose the black vote, and they needed voters to replace them. They made the lives of black people consistently worse for 60 years. They made them poor and more government dependent through bad policy, and they degraded the entire culture to slop, one that promotes gang violence and the eradication of each other through the media. And now that they're begging for help from law enforcement, the only person who is coming to save them is Donald Trump, not the party that they've been voting 90% in unison for the last 60 years. Listen to that same lady break down how the Democrats' soft on crime stance strips the law-abiding people in these communities who just want to do right the chance at actually ever succeeding.
Well, I can see how the young folks might feel a little bit apprehensive because of who the messenger is, President Trump. But Lawrence, I mean, I'm sure you know this as well. When we were kids growing up, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., those were adult hours. And now when you go outside in this city, I see adults, but I also see a lot of children. And so we have to tackle what's happening in their homes. Because guess what? These kids live in neighborhoods with other kids who want to succeed. When we ignore public safety, we reduce opportunity for a lot of these young children. And I think we do a disservice to these vulnerable communities when we aren't willing to have these conversations.
Yeah, Missy, you are so right. It was be home before the street lights are on. Every single night. Exactly.
The Democrats are here because they're too Trump deranged. They fail to live in reality, and they fail to listen to the concerns of voters. Their arrogant belief that they are so much more intellectually superior than everybody else causes them to consistently make stupid decisions that harm the people they claim they want to help. Their extremely racist worldview, formed in their liberal Marxist indoctrination camp known as college, tells them that all black people are criminals and therefore all black people are afraid of police. They don't realize that regular law-abiding citizens have no problem with increased police presence. In fact, They welcome it. It makes them feel safer. But they assume that same feeling doesn't apply to black people. Well, the only logical conclusion you can draw from that is you think all black people are committing crimes. It's the same reason they can't fathom why a majority of Hispanic men voted for Donald Trump, even though he was going to be tough on illegal immigration. And it's because the Democrat mind can't fathom that any Hispanic American can be a legal immigrant, that all of them broke the law and came into the country illegally, and all their family did, and all their friends did. So therefore, none of them should be in support of a closed border, of mass deportation of people who aren't supposed to be here, because they believe every Hispanic person is an illegal immigrant, or at bare minimum has a legal immigrant family. It's completely lost on them the possibility that a Hispanic might have waited in line, legally migrated here, because the countries they came from suck, and now they don't want those same problems following them here to America. But this latest out-of-touch move to oppose Donald Trump trying to clean up crime has caused black voters to finally give up on the Democrat Party, and this is their nail in the coffin. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.